This conference will now be recorded.
Well, welcome everybody. We're so excited to have you join us. I'm Daphne Barlow Stigliano with the Boys and Girls Clubs of Greater Tarrant County. We've got Jason Ray with us from Clayton. Jason, thank you so much for joining us. We're thrilled to have you and all of our guests today for a virtual lunch and learn. Jason, you and I were just talking about how much time we've spent together in the last several months, but we've actually not spent any of it in person.
That's right. That's right. But it's amazing what you can do when you have to, virtually or otherwise. So it's been good. It's good to be with everybody.
Well, thank you for being here. Jason is the CEO of Clayton Youth Enrichment, which is another out-of-school time provider here in Tarrant County. He and I have actually been co-leaders in the Tarrant County response to COVID-19, and we've had some great opportunities to serve our community together. And then a little bit later on here, John Rosales from Boys and Girls Clubs of Greater Tarrant County is going to be joining us as well to tell us a couple of stories from the front lines of what it's been like to serve our young people with these virtual learning centers. So to get us started, I thought it might be helpful for us to talk a little bit about how we got here and what that really means for young people today. So here in Tarrant County, it's really not that different from the rest of the country in terms of the crisis that's facing our school-age youth. There are some differences, of course, depending on what part of the country you're from. I was particularly struck by this statistic from the Brookings Institute. 34.5% of households with a child 18 and under were food insecure as of late April. And as Jason and I have been working together in a lot of different efforts, food has certainly become something that we've seen as a major issue for families, especially families maybe who weren't food insecure before coronavirus was an issue and before our economy started to be challenged. In particular, Boys and Girls Club, we've served over 140,000 meals to young people and their families, and only 12% of them were actually a part of our Boys and Girls Club family before coronavirus started. Another statistic that's kind of got my attention, and Jason, I think it's got your attention quite a bit too, is this idea of summer slide. So summer slide is this idea that when school's out, a young person has a lot of extra time on their hands, and depending on how you spend your time in the summertime and maybe what your opportunities are and how you're exposed during that off time, you may actually advance a little bit in your academic know-how, or you might slide back. And even in average communities, there is something called summer slide, and so teachers across America know what this is very well. But in communities where there aren't access to as many resources, summer slide can be much greater. And very early on, I know Jason, you and I got this study from TEA that we'll look at in a second that indicated that summer slide, because of COVID-19 and the way schools closed coming through April and May, was going to be a much more difficult situation for our young people. And as we think about school restarting, so today is the first day of Fort Worth ISD's school, there are certainly going to be a lot of challenges for young people as they come back into the school year. And I'd like to share this slide, Jason, and I think you've probably experienced in your career, both at Big Brothers Big Sisters and Clayton too, the impact of summer slide. About that?
And the chart is just, it's so telling. And when you know it's the lower income families that those students show even greater losses, it's a tremendous loss. But what's not captured on a chart like this, and I look forward to the research that will come out somewhere in the future, is also the social and emotional health of kids and that slide that they've experienced because of trauma, because of isolation, because of family stresses. And so this reading forecast that we have on our screen is just one of the many areas I'm concerned about our kids having lost ground, and how it's up to all of us to do what we can to catch them up as quickly as possible.
I think that's such a great point, Jason. And I know that's a lot of what we're seeing as we've reopened this summer and for the school year, is that kids have lost a little bit of their social know-how, and certainly been suffering in ways that we really won't understand for many years. On this side in particular, it does talk about the gap that's projected to happen for young people as they return to school this fall due to being out of school in a sort of very untraditional way. So you'll see that the dotted line is the COVID slide, and the solid line would be the typical summer loss that a child might encounter. That gap gets a little shorter, gets a lot shorter actually as a kid gets older. So at these younger ages, it is more pronounced, and it kind of makes sense, right? Like when you're in 3rd grade, that's the last time that you're actually learning how to read. And after 3rd grade, you're starting to use reading to learn. And so this is a really critical time in a young person's life for reading. And you can see here there's a very significant gap that's projected. I think we'll see this over time. And then mathematics, same here. Even a greater gap is projected in mathematics. So we do know academically they're challenged. Jason, to your point, we know socially and emotionally they're challenged. Mental health is becoming a greater challenge for our young people. So starting this school year, we've got a lot of things on our plate as providers that are providers that are coming together to help respond to this. And so we're actually going to tell you a little bit about our response together. So it takes a village, right? This isn't just a Boys and Girls Club problem to solve or a Clayton problem to solve. We've been working with our partners throughout Tarrant County to try to solve this problem, particularly in a day and age when we have less capacity. So because of social distancing and our concerns about safety, we're certainly limiting the number of young people that are coming into our facilities. After all, a lot of schools are closed. And so we want to make sure that if we open our facilities, they're being opened in a really safe manner. And so because of that, we've been very fortunate to be able to open programs. And Jason's been a great leader in this space and helping us get some funding as well. There's more funding that's needed, but we were working together to speak with one voice in order to get some funding. So just to tell you a little bit about what we're doing here in Tarrant County, and Jason, I welcome you to share as well. We're opening what are called learning centers. So if you think about if you're a family that's struggling to maybe pay the bills, maybe you've had a loss of income due to COVID-19 and the economy, and your school is only remote right now, so your only option is to dial in to your classes, it may be really difficult for you to support your child and also be at work. And so learning centers at Boys and Girls Club are designed to be places, because we're place-based, places that are safe, clean, and also well organized, supported by trained staff that can help young people log on using technology, get their homework completed, and then be able to also then take some brain breaks, get some exercise, and get that really important social and emotional support that they need after school too. So it's got that after school component as well. And so these were opened on our end, at least in our locations, with the start of school in Arlington ISD on August the 17th, along with some Fort Worth locations the week after. And then we had one open just today in conjunction with Fort Worth ISD opening at our East Side location. And it's been an interesting day. It's actually been a pretty rocky day. And I have a lot of sympathy for our teacher friends and our school district partners as they are navigating this really difficult world of trying to teach online. And so before I hand it over to John, Jason, I thought I'd invite you to share a little bit about what Clayton's doing in this space.
Sure. And Daphne, the video you guys put together about what it's like to be at one of the learning centers is a terrific visual for folks. So I encourage people to check that out. I believe it's on your website, right?
Yeah, it sure is. It's on our YouTube channel as well.
Great. Yeah, it's great. And so we saw through working with Boys and Girls Club and Girls Inc. and the YMCA in Fort Worth and other organizations, a common vision for we need to figure out how we meet this need. And we knew the caliber of this group of agencies we've been talking with weekly or every couple of weeks for the past several months, and jumping in together to create more learning centers like you've set up. Now the group has 10 across Tarrant County, and I think the next slide may even show those sites. Those families, you mentioned some of the working family issues, but there's other situations where families simply don't have the reliable internet access that's required to carry out the at-home learning that kids need to do. Our survey that we did a couple months ago also said some families simply, they're not comfortable in their ability to support their child while they're learning. And so whatever the case may be, and we know with hundreds of thousands of families across the county, the reasons are limitless, but whatever those reasons are, being able to provide a very affordable $30 a week option at all these sites has been really well received by our families. And as of this morning, we're a little over half full, despite only a week of offering the registration opportunity. And we fully expect that will grow as families realize, okay, I need some help, and I've got some great options. And these are spread across the county from Arlington to far west Fort Worth. And we encourage folks to sign up. Go to any of our web pages, Girls Inc., Boys and Girls Club, YMCA of Metropolitan Fort Worth, or Clayton Youth Enrichment, and you can sign up for the location nearest you.
So I just want to say thank you again, Jason, for your leadership and sort of making sure that we have a collective response that's marketed this way as well. And then also some CARES Act funding, which we're really hopeful materializes soon. But I know we all have needs financially too that our organizations are facing, and the need for scholarships for kids who can't quite, whose families can't quite go the distance all the way. So we'll talk about that more. You know, we can't let a good meeting go by without an ask.
Certainly.
So I see John, you're on the line. I really just want to give you incredible kudos. You've let out the effort, at least on our end at Boys and Girls Clubs, of really making sure these learning centers are possible and operational. And I'd like to invite you to share a little bit more about your experience of what it's been like to support kids in this all virtual environment.
Sure, thank you. Yeah, it's been it's been a learning process from day one, from August 17th, and I feel like we've gotten better at it every day. And it's because we're all figuring out this new world that we're kind of navigating with virtual learning with our members and our families and our school partners. And I think that's the thing that I noticed the most is that while we are the building and the internet and the staff, and we can help connect our kids to their schools and their classes, it really is a effort on the parents, even if it's just to get them to us, and then connecting us with the right school resources and our school partners and helping us connect to the right resources, all in the name of making sure that our kids have what they need to continue their education. The scary part is some of the parents are really struggling to navigate what's going on. And I think of an example I heard this morning, literally about a family that came to us last week, and one of the children, the mom has 5 young kids all in the school system, and one of the kids was falling far behind. I think it was 60 assignments in the last 3 weeks, all small little things that needed to get done. And when she finally brought her group of kids to us, there was one kid we had to put a lot of work into, and the staff did a really good job. And as of today, it was 10 assignments. And I started to think, what happens if they don't find a program that we can assist? It wasn't for lack of trying from the parents. She was just overwhelmed. She couldn't do it on her own, and that's where we come into play. We have the buildings, we have the infrastructure, we have the staff who it's their business to support these kids in their academic day from 7:30 to 3 p.m. and so it's working. From what I'm saying, it's working. It's doing what it's meant to do. We're supporting the families that need us the most. There's more out there that we're hoping find us, and as we get the word out from all the programs. And I had a family call today that I got my number, and they weren't near any of our locations, but right away I said, well, let's look into Clayton, let's look into Girls Inc., let's figure out, who they have, locally to that family, and it's an all hands on deck kind of effort right now.
Yeah, it absolutely is. We're certainly discovering that partnerships are really important to meeting those needs. John, what would you say has been a sort of you shared this story about the family with the 5 kids. What's been something you've learned about how we've needed to respond differently? I know you've only been doing learning centers for the last 2 to 3 weeks. I think it's 3 weeks now. What's something you've learned about our response to helping the community, or something about the learning centers that you think will be helpful to us moving ahead, either as an organization or as a community?
Yeah, I think what I'm witnessing, in the field a lot is that the school systems are kind of the great equalizer for a lot of our families and our communities. It's the place where kids go and everybody has access to the same technology, the same internet, the same support. And so, we kind of had to step in and adapt to make sure that we could then also be that equalizer, in the sense that we can make sure they had those resources. And when kids are at home, the disparity between who has what is wide. And so, things that we almost take for granted, Daphne, it's like headphones. Does every kid have a pair of headphones? And while seemingly small, it's a difference of whether a kid can be focused on their class and can hear everything and get the content they need. So we've had to kind of quickly respond and make sure we get the right stuff in all the staff's and the club's hands. And what I'm kind of getting the sense of when we talk to parents is that it's really hard to do at home, especially if they're working from home. They can't just put their 8-hour day of attention to their children. If they have multiple attention, even if they're not working, they're bouncing back and forth, and we've had to kind of really concentrate our staffing efforts kind of at the front end of certain hours of the day when we know that it's heavy on getting logged on, just getting started with their day. And then it kind of hits a little bit of a lull where then we're more of a support as needed kind of role throughout the day. But just some of those things that we've taken for granted in the past, we just can't assume that people have those things at home and those resources. And we have a higher level of success when we have good partnerships with those schools. If there's a phone number we can just call and know where someone's going to pick up and help us, and that has been really encouraging. So we've had to kind of build a lot of those relationships really quickly too. And if we thought we had good relationships with schools before, I mean, it's at a different level now, because we're really kind of getting to the people that can help us help their students in real time. Everything is happening in real time for us. So I think those are kind of some of the biggest changes and things we've adapted to.
So I know we do have some spaces open. Jason, you mentioned we're about 50% capacity, at least in all of these programs. And some of the feedback I've heard from families and parents is there is still some concern. They may need this program, but there is some concern about safety. And John, I'd appreciate if you could maybe speak to, and I do understand that, especially as a parent myself with school-age kids. Maybe you could speak a little bit to the safety protocols in the program that are designed to limit the transmission, if not completely stop the transmission of COVID-19, and the efforts that we're going to in our program, and I think are shared in all of these programs as well, around maintaining health and wellness.
Sure, yeah, that's one of the first things we started doing back, I would say April and May, when we kind of started playing with the idea of having kids back in the facilities in one way or another, was how we were laying the building out. It was really important to us that we knew we could identify how many members each room, each program space could support with regards to social distancing. So we either got rid of some tables or moved some tables in. We spread them out throughout the room. We kind of eliminated anything that was not needed, kind of that wasn't essential. So just enough chairs for exactly the amount of kids that a room could support or any area could support. And then, everything from the time they walk into our building is either monitored or screened. And there's a parent screening process for them to either fill out prior to getting to the building, which kind of expedites their ability to get in. And that screening process is asking them the questions that have been recommended by the CDC and by Texas Health and Human Services. It's kind of the same guidance that was provided for child care operations early spring. So we follow that line of surveying our parents, and then or we can do it at the front desk as they arrive. Checking temperatures, we log that. And then within our building, we just try to create the most sterile environment we can. So we have stations set up, so materials and supplies are not being reused, or if they are being reused, it's because it's a hard surface equipment that we can disinfect and sanitize pretty quickly. And so our rooms have areas that are for the equipment that needs to be sanitized, and then the equipment that's already been used that's kind of in queue to be sanitized. So we have a rotation of things that could be used. And then the rooms are cleaned and disinfected, hourly or during transition. So for group leaves, it's completely clean and disinfected. We wrote in that we were going to do a full clean disinfecting twice throughout the day, but really it happens, maybe 4 or 5 times throughout the day, just because we're doing it anytime the kids leave the room. We started implementing electrostatic disinfecting. Kind of looked at what some of the industry standards were, did some research on everything from what, the airlines, hospitals, schools are using. And so having these fine mist electrostatic disinfecting sprayers allows us to cover large areas. Some of our buildings can be 10 to 20,000 square feet. So that allows us to cover that level of square footage. And so the repeated cleaning, disinfecting, paying attention to high touch areas, everything from the bathrooms to the common areas, game rooms, things that are thoroughfares for the building, we pay special attention to that. There's logs so that anyone can walk in any room and see when the last time it was cleaned and disinfected. And then try to keep the kids to their group for the most part, so that there's not a lot of crossing from group to group. So if we ever did, and knock on wood, it hasn't happened yet, but if we ever did have a case, we could identify very quickly and contact trace and know who the group was and who they've been in contact with. All that is by design, just kind of limiting any one exposure.
Daphne, I think what John just walked us through is really summarizes what we've done for the past 6 months, right? We've been preparing. We've had every opportunity to prepare for this day. We've been learning. We've been talking to public health. We've been talking to our school partners, and now we're in the action mode. Now, of course, you've been doing a lot of action with feeding families and so forth over the summer. But when it comes to this out of school time and meeting the needs of these families, we really have had a lot of time to prepare and figure out those protocols. And John just did a great job of running down those. And so that's the reassurance I would give families. We've been preparing for this day literally for months. And while no system is perfect, they're in good hands with these top-notch nonprofits that are working together.
I agree. And I really appreciate, John, your effort there to help train our staff and to be on the front lines. And I know there are families who need this service still. So we will definitely be posting this video and encouraging folks to reach out to on our websites to learn more about these programs. So I'm going to just open it up briefly here and see if there are any questions from the audience for any of us about the learning centers, about anything we're capable of answering. We will try to. I'll answer an unasked question while you're thinking of if you've got any, and you can certainly drop it into the chat. So today was the first day of Fort Worth ISD. Arlington started on August the 17th. It's been a rough start. If you've looked at anything in the news today, it's been a rough start over in Fort Worth. just like it was a rough start in Arlington the first day. So these are really challenging programs to roll out for an entire district to put all of their students online. So I'm sure that we'll see some bumpiness ahead for these students in Fort Worth ISD. A question, we just had NBC5 out at one of our locations, and a question I got was, how long are you going to be offering learning centers? You know, how long will this go on? Which is, you know, the $1 million question. If I could answer that question, I would be the smartest person in the world. I don't know how long this will go on, but I do know that at least our partners that we've talked about today are committed to getting us through that first 8 weeks of school that are likely to be remote, or are actually supposed to be remote for our 2 largest districts in Tarrant County. We'll certainly be reevaluating here at Boys and Girls Club after the first 8 weeks of instruction to determine what we do next. There are, of course, a lot of concerns about what happens for school districts, particularly if we have a rise in cases. Tarrant County Public Health did publish a way for you to track COVID-19 rates by schools. So if you're interested in that, we can certainly circulate that. But that's an interesting bit of tidbit. If you're tidbit of news, at least for me, who's a little bit of a data nerd and curious about how my kids are doing at their school, you can actually track and see how COVID-19 cases are going in your local school if you're a parent. Any questions? All right, so we're going to move on to predictions here. What's ahead for our community? I gave you a little bit of a teaser of what I thought might be ahead. Jason, what do you think is around the corner for us?
You know, I've been saying that for months now that my ability to predict is limited to about 4 hours. It might be 4 days now. So I don't know. I know from Clayton's perspective, we're taking one day at a time, making sure we're doing a great job for the families that are in front of us, all the while trying to figure out, if this school year gets extended, what are families' needs going to be, and how do we have to pivot or change or reorient ourselves to meet that need. Typically, this time of year, we would have 80 schools running after-school programs, and essentially that would be it. And so this full-day model is something that we've done a little bit of, and now we're really building the muscles to do that on an extended basis if necessary. We certainly hope we're back to something resembling normal, but if that's January, I'd put there's greater odds that it's January than October. And so I think that may be what's ahead for us. And of course, for us and other nonprofits, our balance sheets have taken a beating for the past 6 months. And our ability to respond and be creative and step out, I think we've all done a really nice job of that over the last 6 months. But without additional support from our community, we're not going to be able to continue to make those kind of investments to meet the needs like we're doing with these sites that we're talking about today.
I agree completely with you, Jason. I would lean more towards a January than an October for more typical behavior from our school partners. I would also maybe take a little bit of a step forward and say that, particularly among our communities that have been disproportionately affected by unemployment, by COVID-19 in particular, and these are communities that we're already behind. These are the communities that we need to lift up and be intentional about in our strategies moving ahead. And so I think as we think about how to use our resources best, I think that's what's on my mind a lot is, you know, we go into 2021, how do we shore up our nonprofit community that is best positioned to create a lot of these strategies, and we need to evolve to make sure that we're meeting those strategies appropriately. But it is weighing heavy on my heart. You know, just there's been a great deal of unrest in our country in a lot of different ways, and I am concerned that we are leaving our kids behind. Too many of our kids behind. We were already, and now this is set too many more of them behind. And I think that's where I've seen our community rise rise up. And you know, our Boys and Girls Club is nearly 100 years old. It was founded on the idea that we would be here for a long time, and we have been. And I'm absolutely convinced that despite these challenges, our organization, partners like you guys over at Clayton, Jason, partners around our community and in Tarrant County are going to find a way. And I've been inspired by partnerships, and that was not what I would have expected to come out of this.
Well, and you know,
Go ahead.
This moment has a couple things are clear to me. One, our teachers are heroes, and what they're doing as we look at the summer slide and so forth, and the battle they've got to reverse that. It's an incredible challenge. The relevance of those of us who, through our clubs or through our after-school programs, have that out of school time space where we're not confined to get a certain math lesson done or a grade on a test or anything like that. We've got the latitude to bring the value that the kids today need, and it's different than it was 6 months ago. But we're all positioned to provide the caring adult, the structured enrichment, the relationship building amongst their peers. We are uniquely situated to do that. And so you for nearly 100 years, Clayton for 45, we've built to be ready to meet the needs of today and tomorrow. And so I'm just thrilled that we're relevant, important, and impactful in this really crazy time for our students.
Well, if you are in our audience or listening to a recorded version of today's Lunch and Learn, on the screen right now, you've got lots of different ways to follow up with Jason with any questions you may have. Whether you're a parent that's interested in enrolling or you're somebody who's interested in partnering with Clayton Youth Enrichment, we've got all the different social media channels you can hit him up on. Also his phone number, which is, I think, the most important tool I've had in the last 6 months, the cell phone. And if you're listening, that's 817-301-6891. And you can follow up with me too. I'm happy to get you connected to Jason as well. And if you're just learning about Boys and Girls Club, you can find us on any social media channel by the same handle, including on our website. It's bgcgtc.org. That's bgcgtc.org. And here's my shamelessness. We need your help. These kinds of great responses to great problems take money, they take time, and they take resources. So while you may find yourself in any one of a number of different places today, there's something you can probably introduce to us that you can help us with, either an idea, maybe it is financial resources, maybe it's an introduction to somebody else. Maybe you can bring your kids to us because we want to help you. And so there are lots of different ways you can engage in this conversation and be a part of the solution. And so definitely follow up with us. I want to say thank you. Thank you, John, for being here. Thank you, Jason, for being here. Thank you for taking your time. Hopefully you're finishing up your half sandwich and your salad or your soup or whatever it is you're doing during your lunch hour besides just listening to us. We appreciate your time and hope to see you again soon on one of our Lunch and Learns. Thank you, everybody. Have a great rest of your Tuesday.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.